Thank you for joining us for this episode of Springdale Today. I'm your host, Mary Jordan. Today we're visiting with artist Eugene Sargent, John Tyson Elementary School of Innovation teacher Jennifer Boogart, and her education accelerated by service and technology students Zharia and Finn. We're going to be discussing an exciting educational e-waste initiative offered through the community partner Cox Communications. Thank you so much for being here with us, you guys.
Thank you for inviting us.
We've been kind of watching this project evolve, and I'm really looking forward to talking to you guys about your experience. Eugene, what can you share with us about this e-waste initiative and Cox motivation for it and how you became involved?
Well, I was contacted by Cox Communications to lead this project. They have a division called Cox Conserves, and it's all about, becoming more environmentally responsible company, aiming for zero waste by a certain date. And the industry has quite a stream of things that need to be recycled and dealt with, because communications is like a rapidly evolving technology that keeps, and of course there's just everyday things. When I first started, thinking about the project, I got to look at the Cox facilities dumpsters and all their recycling bins, and obviously, all these materials started inspiring me right away. But the idea of, being more responsible with materials is just, it's a big idea that, ties into, stewardship of the earth, right? And making sure that things are sustainable and that we handle, some toxic materials responsibly, and that we keep this place beautiful and supporting of human and all the other creatures on the earth.
Jennifer, what can you tell us about this project and what caught your attention as a good educational opportunity for your students?
I loved the opportunity for them to learn about reducing e-waste, as well as get to work with an artist and use a medium that is uncommon in schools. They don't really work with sculptures and create sculptures in art class, and I thought that would be a fascinating experience for them to participate in.
Zharia and Finn, did you guys enjoy it? What was the experience like for you?
I love the experience because I learned that like trash and electronics, like that stuff, it has a different meaning. Like after you recycle it, it could be used for a whole different thing, like the tree that we made.
Okay.
What I loved about this was how we learned more about trash and what to do with it, and like if we reuse it, we can make beautiful stuff in our homes.
Oh, that's a beautiful sentiment. And Finn mentioned it was a tree. Eugene, what can you tell us about the finished project?
So, the first step was for me to sort of get a feel for what I was working with in materials-wise. So I got a tour of the Cox facility. And then the second step was a brainstorming session with y'all and several other classes I think it was at least a dozen students, maybe more. And so we sat at the Cox store, and I brought in a selection of the materials. And my first thought was to just keep my mind open and just get responses of, what it made them think about. And like your first impression or your first response is like really valuable when you're an artist, because it's like, what does this thing evoke? And so we got a list of like 20 different things that you guys thought of when we brought out these materials. And I think we actually did come up with the tree idea right in that brainstorming session. We had all kinds of ideas, but the tree, it sort of grew out of this brainstorming session. And symbolically, of course, it's wonderful because it represents, you know, a beautiful living form on Earth, and something that, you know, Fayetteville in particular and this region is very proud of. We love our trees, and we have a lot of them. And so I think the symbolism just worked. And so the next stage for me was to, in the studio, take a bunch of recycled rebar that I had laying around that was rusting in a pile, and sort of make an armature in the shape of a tree. And then I brought pieces of that, and that's where you all came in and started weaving and, you know, decorating these tree-shaped armature pieces.
An armature, will you clarify what that is for our listeners?
Well, it's basically, so when I think of as a sculptor, when I think of an idea, you know, initially there's nothing, right? And like if you were just thinking of making a painting or a drawing or something, you would sketch. So that's usually the artist's first go-to, is a sketch, like with a pencil or anything. But so when you're sketching in 3D, you do it with things like wire or steel or something that you can move around. And of course, I weld it together, and that holds it solid. But an armature is basically just an underlying structure for a piece.
Kind of like a frame.
Yeah, a frame.
Okay. And the about how tall and big was the finished product?
I think it's about 9 feet tall. And it's in the form of two trees that you can walk between, like a little arch or a portal or something, which I like the symbolism of as well.
Zharia and Finn, what did you guys think of the finished product?
I think it was really good. I think I really liked it because you could walk in it, and it showed a lot of everybody's ideas. It didn't just have one idea. It had mostly everybody's. And I really liked that he put them in good places. Like, he didn't just put them all in one place. He, like, moved them around.
Zharia, what did you think?
What I liked about the tree was that, like, there were star catcher or dream catchers above it. And, like, if that was a home, like, it would be like mystical creatures lived there.
Oh, that's really neat. And there were a lot of different little pieces and stories within the tree. What did your class make as a part of it? Do you recall?
We made one branch. We used wires and telephone cords to, like, weave a little thick branch.
We also made a spider web, and there was a spider on it, and we made miniature bugs on it with wires and miniature colorful wires that were inside of yellow wires.
That's so cool. That really is so cool. And Jennifer, beyond creating this art piece, what do you think is the most beneficial thing that's being created and built for the students?
Well, I loved the opportunity for them to learn about reducing e-waste. I loved the inspiration to steward the environment. And I love the courage that they had, because they haven't ever created a sculpture, and they had e-waste. And how often do you give kids a product and say, just destroy it, do whatever you want to with it and make something? And so they had those yellow wires that Zharia talked about. And what did you find inside those yellow wires?
We found colorful wires, and we also found little copper strips within it. And we both thought that was really cool.
And so they started out building their spider web from yellow cords. Once they broke one of those cords open and found what was inside of it, they used those other little intricate pieces to create a really interesting spider web. Instead of just having a big, thick web, then there were little neat wires running through it, colorful wires that they found. And I loved that. And I loved seeing them discover those wires and say, oh my goodness, look what's inside of this. And what can we do with this? And it was just really fun to watch them create and innovate.
It sounds like a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Eugene, I'm curious, what was the most odd piece of e-waste that you discovered through this process, and did it get used?
Maybe I don't think in terms of odd, or I just think of like in terms of like, ooh, repeated elements. Like, so they had a whole bin of remotes, right? For example, and a bunch of old telephone receivers and telephones. And but when I started opening up the devices and getting the circuit boards out and stuff, I think going to y'all's spider web, it was a wonderful surprise to see what you did with the materials and opening up the network cables and getting the twisted pairs out and the little bugs you made out of the, Ethernet cable ends. That was so cute and really innovative. The way you twisted the little wings and so it was. I mean, I think that was the most surprising thing for me was what they made.
Well, it is a school of innovation.
I'd say so.
So they were innovative right on the money. What was the coolest thing that you guys discovered when you were sorting through the e-waste and that you got to work with?
I think the coolest thing that we discovered was like the wires inside, because none of us knew that those were in there. And we cut off the top of it to use that for bugs. And we looked in it and we saw those little colorful cords, and we thought if we pulled those out, we could use them for like the legs of the spider.
That's really smart. Zharia, what about you?
What I thought was interesting about what we found was the colorful wires, and also like the tops where you put the wires into the internet.
Oh, all right. We are chatting today with artist Eugene Sargent, John Tyson School of Innovation teacher Jennifer Boogart, and her East student Zharia and Finn. And we're chatting about an exciting e-waste art initiative sponsored by Cox Communications the students had an opportunity to work with. Jennifer, how are you connecting these conversations with e-waste to learning in the classroom?
Well, they're actually pretty perfect for East. Community partnerships are incredibly valuable in East, and the partnership with Mr. Sargent and with Cox Communication was established through this project. In addition, teamwork is an important component of East, and they had the opportunity to work together as they created the spider web and all of their fun bugs. And finally, sculpture is three-dimensional, and one of the things that we were just about to start learning was 3D design and printing. And so that just helped bridge it was really cool for them to see like, oh, we can start with an idea and create a product with our 3D printer, just like Mr. Sargent starts with an idea and creates a product with sculpture.
And Eugene, what kind of conversations were you having with students while you were working with them?
So it's funny because initially, I sort of got up in front of the class and was kind of trying to do a dull speech. And I've found this several times, is really when it gets going is just when you get in there with the materials and you just start working. And I think, so there's a time for speeches, and then there's a time to just start interacting with the materials. And that was when we started having fun, was like, we started just seeing what these materials will do. And like the cables, you had to actually get them in your hands and start seeing how to thread them in there and weave with them to see what they would do. And I thought that was when things really got going. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Zharia and Finn, has this changed the way you guys think about throwing things away?
Yeah, it really has, because I've been thinking about like Like, if you throw away a controller, you don't really have to, because you can take it apart, see if you need something in it, and if you don't, you could always donate it to Cox Conserves.
How it's changed my perspective of thinking about recycling and trash is like, if you don't need it, then you can just take it apart and then use it for decoration.
And Jennifer, you're really the key person that has to bring everything together. You're in the classroom, you're communicating with the community partners, you're getting the logistics in order to get the students down there to reveal the project. What's the most rewarding part of that for you, for this experience?
I've loved hearing their conversations about their creation, but probably the most rewarding part was at the unveiling, just seeing their eyes and hearing their squeals of delight when they found the parts that they created. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that they were under the impression that maybe their idea would be included when they were at the brainstorming session. Maybe he would use something that the kids thought of, but then they realized Mr. Sargent incorporated like all of their ideas. And so they would say, we mentioned Easter eggs. Look at our bugs. They're all over the tree. There's a great picture of them pointing to their spider web or pointing to the branch that they created, and the looks on their faces are priceless. They are just so, I guess, in awe of their work and how the final product turned out. And I loved hearing their excitement. That was really so rewarding.
I know about what moment you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I heard it, and I got a reaction from you hustling over there with my camera.
Oh, yeah.
And what did you guys think when you saw that? Were you enamored to see all your different pieces and ideas incorporated into the sculpture?
Yeah, it was really exciting for me because, like, I thought that maybe he'd include some of it, but no, he included almost everybody's idea. He didn't leave anybody's idea out.
That's really fantastic. And Eugene, where is the piece now, and what's in store for it in the future?
It's in my studio waiting to be mounted in the next place, and we're discussing where to put it. And I think it's going to go in one of the 3 schools that participated, but we're discussing putting it outside. So we're going to anchor it down somehow either to the ground or to the sidewalk. But so it's going to be an exterior piece.
Jennifer, do you know the 3 schools that were involved in creating this piece?
I do. J.O. Kelly Middle School, Don Tyson School of Innovation, and John Tyson School of Innovation.
I'm glad that you got different age groups too to all participate
Yes.
in it, which is fun. And Eugene, I'm curious, what was the most rewarding aspect of this for you as an artist?
So yeah, that's always an interesting question for any art piece I make. Sometimes, like the process, you get really down in the trenches, as it were, and you lose sight of the bigger picture. And then later on, you step back and you can sort of see the bigger picture. But really, I think the most exciting part for me was the ideas that the students contributed, because that truly was a surprise, right? And fun. And like I didn't think of those dream catchers. They did, and they made them, and that like added a whole other element to the piece. It was, beautiful symbolism and just the idea of hopes and dreams, right? You put that in there and it's like a whole other level, and you could spin off a whole bunch of other things from that.
Well, thank you for listening and receiving from the students what they had to say and what they hope to contribute to it. We've touched on a whole bunch today. Is there anything I haven't thought to mention that you guys think is an important part of the conversation today? No? Well, we want to thank Cox Communications for this opportunity to tell this story. You can catch this and previous episodes of Springdale Today on YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, and you can listen to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. Thank you for joining us for this conversation. We look forward to seeing you next time on Springdale Today.
Springdale Today is a production of the Springdale Public Schools Communications Office.
The podcast is hosted by Mary Jordan and is produced and edited by Micah DeLacy.
Be sure to subscribe to Springdale Today for free on your favorite podcast platform.
And don't forget to follow Springdale Today on social media for episode updates
and behind-the-scenes conversations.
Thank you for listening. We hope you join us in the future as we continue to learn about the amazing stories happening in Springdale today.